When I teach my students at the College of Business at Missouri State University, my privilege is being able to illuminate, to shed the light on the legal system for these young minds who have had limited exposure to it. I couldn't be doing what I'm doing. I couldn't make it work except for their involvement and the fact that they reciprocate with me, and it makes teaching a joy. The ability to reach thousands of people and illuminate legal issues in the criminal justice system for them without ever leaving my chair has opened a brand new door for me. So I'm not talking about shutting up shop, I'm talking about doing it till the cows come home.
One of my favorite courses to teach is called Constitutional Litigation. The idea is basically to simulate the job of a law clerk. My students prepare bench memos that are then distributed to actual judges. In addition, these students have a chance to argue 2 cases currently pending, before the United States Supreme Court. The court has been so kind to allow my students to argue in the courtroom at the state capitol. It's really a highlight of their experience in the course and hopefully in their law school career. I love the name of this award, the Women's Justice Awards. I think that having a legal degree is a wonderful opportunity to serve and to give back, and it's especially inspiring to see students of mine as they rise to that occasion and themselves become people who are changing their communities.
So I teach a course called Youth in Government, and it's a service learning course. We take law students and they go into area high schools and help train the high school students to have great trial advocacy skills and go to the competition in Jeff City in the fall and compete. The students are amazing, the students are inspiring every day. What's really motivated me this last year has been how passionate our students are, and I think that is so important, and just it's a privilege and an honor to help the students figure out different programming or different avenues for them to be activists in the community.
One of the hardest things I think as a clinic professor is trying to remember what I knew at the same point that my students are at, so that I don't judge them too harshly or I fail to, cross the T's and dot all the I's that they're going to need to know. Because one of the things you do in clinic that's different than other law school courses is you are really constantly thinking about professional judgment. It's one thing to know the law, but it's also what we can do, but it's also important to know what we should do and how we go about that and making the day-to-day decisions that lawyers do in their practice, which is not something you can easily learn in a textbook. It takes having experience digesting what had just happened, talking about it, and figuring out whether that was the best way or perhaps other alternative ways that you could have handled that same situation.
The key to getting students interested in public service, I think, is to get to know each individual student and kind of find out what they're interested in, what drives them. The goal of the Public Service Project was to encourage students to give back to the community, help them develop professional responsibility so that they know that as future lawyers, they do have a commitment to public service. I feel very fortunate because I truly love my job. It's never boring, it's very challenging, and it's different every day, but the students and the faculty and the administration at Washington University Law are amazing, and they make it very, very pleasant to go to work every day, and I appreciate that. I know that I'm fortunate to be in a position like that.
I've been with the EEOC for 5 years. I've been president of the Bar Association since June of 2014, but I've been involved with the Bar Association since about 2005. Through my work and through the Bar Association work, I am in touch with the community in both areas. So I would say that my desire to help people is being met by both of those. And that's been the major joy, I guess, I've had from the experience in being the Bar Association president this year, and also with my work. I just feel like when you can make a difference in someone's life, when you can help them in some way. And I will say that with the Bar Association in particular, things that I didn't feel like were really a big deal, people have been coming up so grateful because they've not had anybody really sit down and give them the time and listen to them and really try to help them understand what their problem is and what the solution could be, even if it's not unlawful discrimination.
Legal Services had wanted to create a medical legal partnership many years ago. And when I started, I told my executive director that I had a master's in health administration. And he said, is this a medical legal partnership something you'd be interested in someday? And I said, absolutely. So kind of from the time I started, we had talked about it, and then it took 4 years to put all of the plans in place and to approach the hospital and to get everything moving. And we started in August of this year. Our funding came through with the Missouri Foundation for Health. It's just been amazing. The partnership has gone so much better. I mean, we hoped it would go well, but the response has just been absolutely amazing. And I think that there's so much need, and people are starting to see that need, and we could have these partnerships in so many areas within our service area, and I really hope to be a part of that.
So our firm is rather large. We have about 550 attorneys, and we use internal committees to help recruit and also to manage associate issues and mentoring activities. I served on the recruiting committee for 3 years. Great experience. I got to go back to UMKC and interview. I interviewed candidates from all over the states, from many different law schools. I also served on our Associate Development and Mentoring Committee. And that committee, the purpose of that committee is really to pay attention to the mentoring of our young associates. We use that committee to identify issues that associates are facing. So for example, an alternative work schedule. That was a new policy born out of that committee because we needed to give our attorneys, not only just our associates, a more flexible way to practice law.
I had never even heard of special education law until I was presented with a child who had a learning disability. I give presentations and do lectures and advise parents on how to advocate for their children, how to do it effectively, explain a little bit as to what their rights are so that when they go into a meeting to determine their child's education plan, they have the tools to work with when they go in. And I think that is so important, is just parent education. That also wards off litigation. And so I think that is very, very important.
I love doing plaintiff's work because you're helping people. Many times you're the only person who speaks on behalf of someone who's been injured, and being able to help them provide relief where they need it, it's very rewarding. Becoming a parent probably changed me more than anything that's ever happened to me. As a woman, it's my responsibility to be a positive role model, to show her that you can be successful professionally, you can be successful personally, and that you also have to give back to the community, that there's more in life than just making money or having great verdicts, that with that comes responsibility to try to help people, whether it's through your job or volunteering or both.
I grew up in a family of 3 girls. I was the youngest of 3 girls, and my parents instilled in all of us the ideas of social justice and change. When I started in my practice, I was with my father, and he represented a multitude of families, and with that knowledge and guidance, I also felt the same need to represent people in families who are injured. And I continue, I hope, with his original ideas and thoughts in representing people who are injured. I don't think that anyone ever wants to be injured. They all want to get well, get back to work, and be successful citizens, and my goal is to help them get to that point.
You know, I went from being solely an employment trial lawyer to helping companies avoid litigation, training people in companies. And I love it because it's intellectually stimulating, but it's all about people. I've been fortunate to have very good clients who really want to do the right thing. I think a lot of times employment discrimination claims arise from misunderstandings. And in my role as an outside employment lawyer, I can help companies get through those misunderstandings, help them have better policies, help them with training, counsel them through how to properly handle discipline or, the sad case of the occasional termination.
What I do is I help clients solve problems that, for whatever reason, they couldn't solve themselves before they turned into litigation. And a lot of people think that that means, butting heads and being competitive all the time, but more than anything else, the biggest skill is building consensus, even with opposing counsel, so that you can try to settle a case that before you got involved maybe wasn't settlable. The work you do to perform excellently, either in the courtroom or in your briefing or with your clients or with a new witness, excellence is a habit. And if you make it a habit of your own, you will not regret it.
I'm very, very honored to receive the Litigation Practitioner Award. I think it's great to see women lawyers across the state honored in this way. I follow in some terrific footsteps. I was fortunate enough as a young lawyer to have some women who mentored me, particularly Sandy Shimmerhorn, who was then at Spencer Fane and was one of the first women to be a partner in a large law firm. So that, I'd like to pass that on, and I think I'm trying to do that, and that's one of the reasons that this award really is special to me, because I think it both is an honor to the people who've mentored me, and it is a recognition of my attempts to mentor other young women, and so that really is a wonderful recognition, and I very much appreciate it.
I became the chair of the Attorney Relations Committee a couple of years ago. And in that role, we not only make sure that our associates are being mentored properly, but we're also in charge of hiring. And as I tell people that interview at Spencer Fane, that there are a lot of great law firms in Kansas City. Everybody does good work. And so it's really about the people. Who do you want to spend the majority of your time with? Because they become your family. And as I like to joke, we are a happy, dysfunctional family in my practice group at Spencer Fane. But I cannot imagine having worked with anybody else for the past 15 years.
When I first moved here, it didn't take me long to realize that the Midwest was way behind Washington, D.C. in the way women in professions were accepted, where the first time I went into a courtroom, the judge sticks his head out and says, "Honey, let me know when your boss gets here. I don't have all day." How does that make my client feel? What kind of confidence does he have in me? Your options are you can either roll on the floor and whine about it, or just get on with it and find a way to overcome it. And one thing you have to do is demonstrate, particularly to the clients, that you are as tough as anybody else out there. They wouldn't be calling you if it's something they could handle themselves. So they're looking for someone who will take on their battle for them. And so you have to project the persona that they're looking for.
At the Missouri Bar, our vision is justice first. And so my long-term hope is that we can do all that we can. And when I say we, it's a couple things. It's our extremely dedicated bar leaders. It's our wonderful, dedicated staff. So we're a team and we work together. And so my hope and vision would be that we can continue to meet the legal needs of Missourians. There are folks who cannot afford attorneys. There are folks who may not realize that they have issues in their daily lives where they need an attorney. and we need to do everything we can to equip our members to serve those residents of our state.
My father started Hogan Land Title and is in the background whispering, maybe go to law school. I thought, yeah, I wasn't really very interested. And then as my career at Drury, education proceeded and actually worked with vets, I knew that was not the career for me. And at the last minute, I thought, sure, I'll give it a shot. And it has ended up being a really great decision. I found the law both interesting, and I actually had some aptitude for it, which was not exactly true in the chemistry biology world. And it has allowed me to have a lot of diversity in my life with a family and a business, and in the family business it's been a great blessing.
So I practiced as a nurse for, while I went to school to get my bachelor's degree. And then as I was doing that, realized that the next thing I would be interested in is applying all of this applying my healthcare knowledge to the legal side of things also. I think one of the biggest things I've recognized is how complicated healthcare is and how difficult it is to meet the goals that maybe I have for how we provide care to patients. If it was simple, many people would have already figured it out.
I think the most surprising thing for me after working at the Bar Association for a couple of years was the quality and loyalty of the lawyers that are part of the bar. St. Louis has a wonderful legal community. We are really lucky with the quality of people, and I just was amazed at how ethical, how congenial, how giving the legal community was. Not having spent a lot of time with lawyers, I was more accustomed to lawyer jokes. And so one of my goals ever since then has been to raise the profile of the lawyer. We have fantastic lawyers in St. Louis, and the St. Louis community needs to know that.
As a general counsel for Wireco World Group, a large global manufacturer of wire and synthetic rope, I handle a variety of issues. Everything from general litigation, commercial contracts, real property leases, employment matters, non-compete issues. It runs the gamut. It was definitely a transition going from the private practice into the in-house setting. It's been great. It's been a challenge, being the only attorney coming from a firm of 500 plus lawyers. It's important to have the strong core, the strong family that you can count on. And I also think it's important to establish mentors, to seek them out, and to establish a rapport and relationship. It will really help in developing your career, and developing you professionally and personally.
Family law, to me, is the most important area of law there is. And I'm sure some people love corporations, but I don't. And family law is the area of law that impacts people, to me, the most. And that's what made it really, really something that I wanted to pursue in life. Helping people get through divorces, get through family changes, get through custody battles. And that's what drew me to family law. Everybody knows me as a family court judge. Some people know me as the lawyer prior to becoming a family court judge, but not very many people know my interest in horses. I used to be a horse trainer. I've changed my preferences a little bit, and now I ride obstacle courses in extreme cowgirl associations, and I can't live without my hat and my boots.
The biggest impact that I make as a family court commissioner is working with young people, working with families, working with children in the city of St. Louis. Most of the population that I deal with is they're young black people. And for them to see someone who looks like them and can often speak to the same experiences that they have, that is a huge impact. I was the first black member of the Board of Governors of the Missouri Bar. The importance of being first is I don't know if it's necessarily the importance of being first, or also a sort of sadness that it took that long to achieve that accomplishment.
As the first female circuit judge in the county, and in an urban county, it was unusual for lawyers to have a woman as a judge, and it took lawyers and members of the public and litigants time to get used to that. There were actually more women judges on TV than there were sitting on benches around the country at the time. And now it's not odd at all. People expect the bench to reflect the community, and that's men, women, it's members of minority, and that's as it should be. Somewhere in my background, my folks left with me that idea of public service, and getting teary-eyed, and I'm eternally grateful to them for that.
Being the first female circuit judge, it was just an incredible honor. Our bench in Jefferson County is a bench I'm very proud of, and getting to serve, being able to serve with all of those people, and being able to work with people of that caliber I know it's made me a better judge. To break through that glass ceiling, and I think is a testament to the quality of the people who supported me, to the people who I serve with on the bench. I think one of the things that makes my job the easiest is being married to my husband Eddie and getting to be a mom to our 3 wonderful kids, Maggie, Joe, and Annalisa.
The last couple of years have been a little bit more difficult for me. First, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and then I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then at the end of all that, I broke my ankle. I think I gained from that an understanding of a lot of my clients' issues, because a lot of my clients have illnesses. A lot of them are in poverty because they're not able to work because they have illnesses. And it was always amazing to me when my clients would notice I wasn't feeling well or, up to my best, that they would always stop and say, we're saying a prayer for you and we're thinking about you, and it's okay, Wendy, if you don't feel quite as good today, we understand. And so it was nice to be able to have that rapport with my clients and then now understand also what they go through as well.
Why did I get into community economic development in the first place? I've always, since I was a young child, had this notion that I wanted to help other people. And that's been the theme that I've carried with me my entire life. And so that's probably shaped my path more than any other one consideration. And so having spoken about wanting to make a difference but not wanting to do it through litigation, what motivates me is really the amazing clients who I have the opportunity to work with. Not only are they finding a way to start a business, but all of them talk about wanting to give back somehow. They want to give back to the neighborhood where they came from, or just somehow more generally give back.
While I was in college at William Jewell, I was working part-time just as a 2-hour clerk from the college. I'd walk down and go to work in the prosecutor's office in Clay County. And the prosecutor there at the time was a man by the name of Bill Brandom. Bill sounded like, and to me looked like, John Wayne. He was just bigger than life. The thing that I took away from working for Bill at the time was that he just always did things right. Regardless of who he may make angry on any given file, he just did whatever was the right thing to do. And so the opportunity to become the prosecutor in 2005 was something that interested me. It excited me. I wanted to see if you could still do it 14 years later the way Bill Brandom had done it in Clay County, and what I kind of considered old school. And it turned out that you can still do old school in a public office by just everything you touch trying to do the right thing.
So as Executive Director of the Diversity Awareness Partnership, our mission is to promote diversity in the St. Louis region around issues of race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, and age. One of our most exciting programs that we've launched in the last couple years is called Explore, and it's an opportunity for students of color to get exposure to industries where there are huge disparities. This program was so successful that we had companies like Ameren, Centene, the Federal Reserve Bank, and a number of others want to do more Explore programs. We started with just 1.5 people, and we have now grown to 6 people, and we're very excited because we have just launched our second office in Columbia, Missouri.
I had finished my graduate work in nonprofit management and my thesis on how to start a nonprofit. So I was asked to start the new nonprofit, and that's what we named Whole Kids Outreach. And I still work there now, though, Executive Director at Whole Kids Outreach. Starting an agency has been something that I could not have done without the assistance of the legal profession. So although that's not our main focus, this award really does tend to bring both of those wonderful fields together in a way that continues to help our kids and their children. It's the transgenerational issues that we're trying of poverty and of poor health and abuse and neglect, child abuse and neglect.
One of the projects that Rosebrook Center started this past year is we initiated a leadership role in providing collaboration between all the judicial systems in Kansas City, which includes the police department, prosecutor's office, probation and parole, the court system, in how we can keep victims safe but hold offenders accountable. In 2009, we trained the Kansas City Police Department on how to use a tool called the Lethality Assessment Program. They go into a scene of a domestic violence call. They ask them 11 different questions that have been researched to determine that if a woman answers yes to any one of these questions, she's likely to be killed. And so at the scene of the crime, the officer will ask her these questions, and if she answers yes, then he says, I'm going to call Rosebrook Center and ask for their advice and see if we can find a way to help keep you safe. So they get on the phone, they communicate with us, we're able to talk with this woman on the phone and be able to help her provide safety planning, help her get into shelter, do orders of protection, and we've been able to reach so many more women that would not have known about us before, and now have opportunities to be able to be safe and not be killed. And it's just been an extraordinary program that has been modeled with other communities across the country.